Hey guys, my name's App and this is the ARL 44. While I'm drinking this tea and contemplating on why my voice apparently makes people feel a bit hot under the collar, I'm also writing the script for this video. It's a pretty damn fun tank if you manage to get behind the fact that the sidearm is made from closely put together white flags, and that the gun is as long as some bigots I've seen in my life. Despite all of that, it doesn't have 6 gears of reverse speed and it's an insanely fun tank. It's actually shown on my stats in it, around 400 battles, 1440 average damage and around 70% win rate. But win rate isn't everything, right? Let's take a look on how the tank's rough statistics perform. Mind you, I didn't play it before it got nerfed, I only got it after it got nerfed. For starters, is the armor, since it's a heavy tank after all. The frontal armor is surprisingly solid, 120mm of frontal armor slightly angled, which gives it a relatively decent effective armor value of about 160 to 170mm when dead ahead. If you use all of the 10 degrees of gun depression the tank has, you can get that value to about 220. If you do that, however, a new weak spot can open up for the enemy, which is the lower glacis, which will be pretty damn weak in that spot. You'll need to hide it however you can. The turret compared to the frontal armor isn't all that shiningly great either. It has around 110mm of armor and is a much easier pen for even tier 5 tanks. You can't do much with that except to wiggle the turret and try to utilize the gun depression. I wouldn't recommend to side scrape too much either. The tracks are pretty damn easy to blow through and the side armor isn't too strong. If you're forced to side scrape, however, I'd recommend to keep a very acute angle to minimize pen risks. We don't talk about rear armor for a reason here, by the way. And it has 1000 hit points. Not bad, but there's also higher amounts like on the VK36 and the Churchill 7. Next up, the gun. It's actually a great gun with possibly some of the highest, if not the highest pen in the tier. 212 on its AP rounds. 212. Yes. 212 on its standard ammunition and 225 alpha. It isn't as punchy as the 107mm gun on the T150 or the 122 on the KV1 Sports. It's compensated by the pretty bad accuracy, 0.30 for dispersion with all of the bells and whistles, and the relatively mediocre aim time of around 2 seconds with all the best stuff. The Churchill has 1.72 seconds and the VK has 1.93 seconds. It also has solid DPM of around 2000 with a reload of 6.7 seconds. As I mentioned earlier, the Top Gun has 10 degrees of gun depression. Next up, the mobility. With those pretty good numbers earlier, this is probably the only real stats the ARL suffers in. 37 km per hour, but with a very beefy 825 horsepower engine, again with all the bells and whistles. And that gives you a pretty good power to weight ratio of 17.6. So it's kinda the breaking point for French heavies, since from here they only get faster, not by a lot though. The terrain resistance also isn't particularly bad, I've seen worse, and the traverse also isn't really bad. My setup has around 32.5 degrees per second and the turret traverse isn't far behind, with 26.3 degrees. Despite the fact that it weighs almost 47 tons, it's fairly well mobile. Also, about that part where they get faster, I was lying about the AMX M445, which has a speed limit of 35 km per hour. In case this interests anyone, I'm usually running an echo setup on the tank. While the credit coefficient is actually pretty solid, I'm running only a repair kit, an automatic fire extinguisher and a first aid kit. I'd actually recommend adrenaline, a multi-purpose restoration pack and a repair kit. For provisions, I run hot coffee, improved fuel and the protective kit, but you won't lose anything if you replace the kit with canned pate. For equipment, I run the gun rammer, protective modules, optics, the gunling drive, enhanced armor, though improved assembly is possibly a better choice, improved control and a vertical stabilizer. I'd then run the toolbox and the consumable delivery system. Now that that's out of the way, I'm going to show you a few replays of me attempting to get an ace. I actually succeed in one where I get a cheeky ass. You'll also be able to see the tank in action and how well it actually performs, and from there you can decide if it's worth keeping or not. So, this is the first battle in Castilla. Fairly memey too, with the talks coming in hard and long, and slow. The first half of the battle is particularly slow though, so I think I'll go over the details on how to probably play, or not to play the tank. Of course I have to greet our glorious Tog overlords. Anyways, the ARL. Possibly the best tier 6 heavy, seconded only by the Kuromori Mine. It's great for tournaments due to its solid armor, great gun, and okay mobility. I really like the frontline it when I'm top tier, and it absolutely devastates lower tiers. I'd recommend that as well for you, but when you're up tier, I'd recommend to take a further stance, and move into the second line. The accuracy should still hold up there, but you should expect quite a few shots to miss already. You might have noticed the fact I camp a bit in here, and I'll rectify that near the end. I wanted to hook you up with some smooth jazz, but there's nothing with Creative Commons as far as I know, so you'll have to listen to this. I feel a bit bad for the dog, he didn't really do anything wrong. The remaining enemy, the T-3485, doesn't really do anything important and he's just an extra bit of damage to me. And I only move around just a teeny tiny bit around the map. Now all that's left is the T-3485. A small game of cat and mouse and shoes, but the tank is soon found. Overall, this was a decent game with a bit of that punchy baguette goodness. In the end, I get the first class and 2200 damage with about 530 assist damage. Next up, Port Bay, where we absolutely devastate some poor sods in their tanks. So, Port Bay. It's technically a tier 7 battle, but there's only one tier 7 on each side, so I'm gonna call it a tier 6 battle because I'm an idiot. The only genuine threats to the ARL in this battle could be the SU-100M1 and the KV-2 due to their punchy guns. And only one of them is actually going to be a threat. Not the KV-2, but the SU. Yeah. Alright. One thing I should also mention is to take great care when driving out of the cover with the ARL. While its frontal armor is rather strong, the track wheels poke out a bit more and can actually be penned, which could give you a lot of trouble, so bear that in mind and try to reveal as little of the armor profile as you possibly can. This is where the fun begins. They won't even know what hit him. Maybe yeah, because this thing is slow. Yeah, I'll shut up. The first lamp to the slaughter is the SU, and I think you can see how many issues he's gonna have with his gun depression. He has to poke out to such a ludicrous degree that everyone can get very easy shots on him. But while that is happening, we're going to have a small predicament on our left flank. I'll show them who's boss in this battle. I actually feel really bad for the Jumbo. The collector tank rebalance wasn't particularly kind to the tank. While it keeps its armor profile and the sweet turret, the gun took the worst hit and the DPM isn't exactly good now. That VK is a very minor annoyance, but what I want to get rid of first is the Jumbo. If he can get around me, I'll be in very big trouble, mainly because I don't have much health left. Wow, he even fired Pramo and bounced. Impressive. Here you can see how many tanks can have ridiculous trouble with the ARL. This poor sod doesn't even stand a chance, no matter if he fires Pramo or not. Now, all that's left is to mop up the remains at the top with the rest of the team. The KV-2 is the last tank remaining, and he manages to screw that up too. How did he manage to not kill the V39 is beyond me, really. Anyways, another good game with about 2700 damage. And the last bit of glory remaining in our video is the Rosena game on For the Despair, which I don't even think needs any commentary. I got extremely lucky and probably kill-stealed a lot too. Anyways, that is it from me. My name is Hap. If you liked the video, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Merry belated Christmas wishes and have a nice day. And I'll catch you next time.
Pets door. Meow meow. Porf bark. Gloop gloop. Prrr. I'm not for sale, you dingus.